On October 3, 1951, one swing of the bat wiped out a 13.5-game lead, and 50 years later, we learned it may have been stolen. They called it the shot heard round the world. The most famous home run ever hit. A single moment that turned a forgotten outfielder into a legend and broke a city's heart in the same breath. But myths have a way of hiding things. To understand the swing, you have to go back to the summer that made it impossible. August, 1951. The Brooklyn Dodgers were the best team in baseball. Jackie Robinson, Roy Campanella, Duke Snider, Gil Hodges, a lineup built to bury anyone in front of it. On August 11th, they led the New York Giants by 13.5 games. In the standings, the race was already over. The newspapers had crowned them. Fans were talking about the World Series, not the pennant, because the pennant looked like a formality. Across the river, the Giants were an afterthought. Good, not great. Managed by a fiery little man named Leo Durocher, a manager who hated to lose more than he loved to win, a man who once said nice guys finish last and meant it as a way of life. And the rivalry between these two teams was already the meanest in baseball. Durocher had made it personal. He had managed the Dodgers for years, worn Brooklyn's colors, been the face of the borough's team, and then he jumped across the river to manage their most hated enemy. To Brooklyn, he was a traitor. To the Giants, he was a loaded gun. And then something happened that shouldn't have. The Giants won. And won. And won again. 16 games in a row. While the Dodgers, feeling the heat of a lead melting under them, began to crack. Day after day the gap shrank, 13 games, then 10, then 5, then 2. A lead that had looked like poured concrete turned to sand and ran through Brooklyn's fingers. On the final day of the regular season, after 154 games, the two greatest rivals in the sport were tied. Dead even. Everything they had bled for that summer came down to a best-of-3 playoff for the National League pennant. The Giants took Game 1. The Dodgers crushed them in Game 2, 10-0, to force a decider. One game left. Winner goes to the World Series. Loser goes home and spends the whole winter thinking about it. And nobody watching had any idea the Giants had been keeping a secret since the middle of July. The secret was hidden in the outfield, behind a window in center field, 480 feet from home plate. October 3, 1951. The Polo Grounds, Upper Manhattan. Game 3. 34,000 people packed the horseshoe stands, and millions more leaned toward their radios across the country, in barbershops and living rooms and factory floors. For 8 innings it was a war. Then Brooklyn pulled ahead. Top of the ninth, the Dodgers led 4-1. 3 outs from the pennant. In the visiting clubhouse, someone was already reeling in the champagne, and the reporters were writing Brooklyn's headline. The Giants came up for their last licks. A single. Another single. A double down the line that scored a run and left runners on second and third. 4-2 now. The tying runs aboard, and the winning run walking to the plate. Brooklyn's manager made the call to the bullpen. He brought in a big right-hander named Ralph Branca. Branca had already given up a home run to the Giants earlier in the series. He was a good pitcher having a bad week. And the number stitched on the back of his uniform was 13. At the plate stood Bobby Thomson, a quiet outfielder, born in Glasgow, Scotland, raised on Staten Island, a man who had been thoroughly ordinary for most of his career. Just an ordinary player, on the biggest stage the sport had ever built. Branca's first pitch, a fastball, belt high, right down the middle. Strike one. Thomson watched it sail past without moving the bat off his shoulder. The second pitch came up and in, and this time Thomson swung. The ball screamed out toward left field, low and sinking, low enough that for one long heartbeat it looked like it would die on the warning track. The left fielder drifted back to the wall and looked up. And then the ball cleared the wall by a couple of feet and disappeared into the lower deck. The Giants win the pennant. The Giants win the pennant. Announcer Russ Hodges screamed it into the microphone again and again, his voice cracking, repeating the same words like a man who could not believe his own eyes. Thomson floated around the bases, half running, half dancing. His teammates swarmed home plate and buried him. Grown men wept openly in the stands. And across the river in Brooklyn, radios went dead silent in 100,000 kitchens at once. It was, they said, the greatest moment in the history of the game. A nobody had beaten the best team in baseball with one swing of the bat. The perfect ending. And Ralph Branca, number 13, walked off the mound and into 50 years as the man who threw it. For half a century, that was exactly how the story was told. The miracle and the goat. Thomson the hero, Branca the fall guy. Then a reporter started asking a different question. Not how did Bobby Thomson hit that pitch? But did he already know it was coming? In 2001, a journalist named Joshua Prager published what the 1951 Giants had spent 50 years quietly protecting. He tracked down the aging players one by one, and the story they finally told rewrote the miracle. Back in late July of that season, right before the impossible comeback caught fire, Leo DeRocher had ordered a scheme. In the Giants center field clubhouse, high above the outfield, a backup catcher named Herman Frank sat with a powerful spyglass, a Woollensack telescope, trained on the opposing catcher 480 feet away. He read the signs the catcher flashed: fastball, curveball, off speed, and pressed a hidden buzzer wired down to the bullpen. One buzz for a fastball, two for a breaking ball. A man in the bullpen relayed it to the hitter. In the seconds before a pitch, a Giants batter could know exactly what was coming. The greatest comeback in baseball history had a wire running through it. Now, honesty demands we say this plainly, because the historians and the men themselves never fully agreed. Bobby Thomson insisted, to the end of his life, that he did not take the sign on that final pitch. Some teammates backed him. Others quietly admitted the machine was running that afternoon. We will likely never know for certain what was in Bobby Thomson's head in the half-second before he swung. But the machine itself was real. The telescope was real. The buzzer was real. And for 2 months in 1951, the best team in baseball was chasing a ghost it could not see, a team that, at least some of the time, knew the pitch before it left the pitcher's hand. So why does it still matter, more than 70 years later? Because the shot heard round the world is the story baseball tells about itself. The miracle. The proof that on any given afternoon, the underdog can topple the giant with nothing but a bat and a heartbeat. It is stitched into the sport's soul. And the revelation forced everyone who loved that story to hold two truths in the same hand, that the moment was magic, and that the moment was compromised. It set the template for every sign-stealing scandal that came after. Decades later, when the Houston Astros were caught banging on trash cans to steal signs on their way to a championship, the outrage was enormous, and the oldest baseball fans just nodded slowly. They had seen it before. In 1951. Behind a window in center field. Stealing signs with a machine was not some modern sin. It had been wired into the game's most sacred moment all along. The Thomson home run taught the sport a lesson it keeps having to relearn, that the line between cleverness and cheating is thinner than baseball wants to admit. That the games we treat as sacred are played by human beings who will bend any rule they can reach. And that the most beautiful moment in a sport's history can be true and tainted at the very same time. There is one last detail. The ball Bobby Thomson hit was never found. It vanished into the roaring crowd in the lower deck and was never recovered. No plaque, no display case, no proof. A perfect ending to a story that refuses to give anyone a clean one. Ralph Branca and Bobby Thomson, the GOAT and the hero, spent the rest of their lives bound together, appearing side by side at card shows and dinners for half a century, two old men laughing about the pitch that defined them both. Branca learned about the sign stealing late in life. He said he was almost relieved. And then he said something stranger. He said he had never told anyone, because he did not want to take anything away from Bobby. So here is the question. If the single greatest moment in baseball came with an asterisk that nobody knew about for 50 years, does knowing the truth change what you would have felt hearing that call live on the radio? Or does the magic survive the facts? Follow for more.